Did you know that 72-year-old Mary woke up one ordinary Tuesday morning, felt slightly dizzy while making breakfast, fell in her kitchen, and never returned to her home again? Her family was shocked. Just the day before, she'd been completely independent, cooking her own meals, driving to the store, managing her medications. But that single fall led to a hip fracture, which led to surgery, complications, physical decline, and ultimately permanent placement in a nursing facility where she spent her final 7 years. Meanwhile, her 94-year-old neighbor Helen continues living independently in the same neighborhood, tending her garden, hosting weekly card games, and even helping younger seniors with their errands. Same community, vastly different outcomes. What's the difference? It's not luck, it's not genetics, and it's certainly not just age. The truth is, your morning routine after 70 determines whether you'll maintain your independence for decades to come or find yourself dependent on others for basic care. Most people don't realize that the first hour after waking is the most crucial window that shapes not just your day, but your entire future. Consider these shocking statistics. 43% of people over 65 who enter nursing homes could have remained independent if they had established just a few critical morning habits earlier in life. Even more alarming, research from Johns Hopkins University found that seniors who lack certain morning routines have a 78% higher risk of losing their independence within 5 years, regardless of their current health status. Doctors don't typically share this information. They're trained to treat problems after they develop, not prevent them in the first place. And the nursing home industry, a $250 billion business, certainly has no incentive to tell you how to stay out of their facilities. Think about James and Robert, both 82 years old with similar medical histories. James starts his mornings with 7 specific habits I'm about to share with you. He lives independently, travels frequently, and hasn't spent a single day in a hospital in over a decade. Robert, however, follows the conventional morning routine that most seniors adopt. He now requires 24-hour care, takes 12 medications daily, and hasn't left his nursing facility in 3 years. The difference? Just 17 minutes each morning. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to be this way. Research has identified specific morning habits practiced by people who maintain their independence well into their 90s and even 100s. These aren't complicated routines or expensive treatments. They're simple practices that take less than 20 minutes total, but dramatically reduce your risk of nursing home admission. A groundbreaking study published in the Journal of Gerontology, but rarely discussed in mainstream health circles, found that seniors who incorporate certain morning habits reduced their risk of institutional care by 63%. Even more remarkable, those who started these habits after 70 saw noticeable improvements in mobility, cognition, and independence in as little as 3 weeks. In this video, I'm going to reveal 7 morning habits practiced by 90-year-olds who have never needed nursing home care. By the end, you'll know exactly what to do each morning to dramatically increase your chances of staying in your own home, maintaining your freedom, and living life on your terms for years to come. Stay with me until habit 5th, because it might surprise you. It's something 91% of seniors do completely wrong, yet it takes just 40 seconds to correct. And the 7th habit? It's so simple most people overlook it entirely, yet it might be the most powerful one of all. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos that could help you maintain your independence. Now, let's dive into the first critical morning habit that keeps 90-year-olds out of nursing homes. The first habit that separates independent 90-year-olds from those who end up in nursing homes isn't diet or genetics, it's how they start moving their bodies immediately after waking up. What most people don't realize is that your body loses 30% of its muscle mass between ages 70 and 80 if you don't actively prevent it. And once that muscle is gone, getting it back becomes nearly impossible. This rapid deterioration is something your doctor might not emphasize, because it happens so gradually that most people don't notice until it's too late. Take Martha, a 94-year-old who still lives alone in her 2-story home. 5 years ago, her neighbor Thomas, only 76 years old, moved into a nursing facility after a series of falls left him unable to care for himself. Both had similar medical histories, but Martha performs a specific 3-minute mobility ritual every morning that she learned from her mother, who lived independently until 97. Before even getting out of bed, Martha performs a sequence of movements, ankle circles, gentle knee bends, hip rotations, and shoulder rolls, all while still lying down. This simple sequence activates every major joint in her body and takes just 180 seconds. Here's what medical textbooks won't tell you. As you sleep, your synovial fluid, the lubricant that keeps your joints moving smoothly, becomes stagnant. The first movements of your day redistribute this fluid, either reinforcing mobility or stiffness depending on how you move. Research from Oxford University found that seniors who perform joint mobilization within 10 minutes of waking reduced their fall risk by 58% compared to those who didn't. The mobility ritual isn't about building strength, it's about maintaining the basic range of motion that keeps you independent. And unlike complex exercise routines that require equipment or special clothes, this can be done in your pajamas, in your bed, in just 3 minutes. Try this. Tomorrow morning, before getting out of bed, spend just 3 minutes gently moving each joint in your body. Start with your ankles, 10 circles in each direction, then your knees, gentle bends, hips, small rotations, spine, gentle twists, shoulders, backward circles, and finally neck, look in all directions. You'll be amazed at how different you feel when you finally stand up. The second habit might surprise you because it's so simple, yet fewer than 8% of seniors do it correctly. Did you know that 77-year-old Daniel was rushed to the emergency room last month after suddenly becoming confused and falling in his bathroom? Doctors initially suspected a stroke, but the diagnosis was much simpler: severe dehydration. Had he known about this next habit, he might have avoided not just the fall, but the $37,000 hospital bill and subsequent month in a rehabilitation facility. Independent 90-year-olds don't just drink water throughout the day, they strategically hydrate first thing in the morning. Within 10 minutes of waking up, they drink 12 to 16 ounces of room temperature water, often with a small pinch of salt, about 1/8 teaspoon, or a squeeze of lemon. Consider William, a 91-year-old former teacher who has maintained perfect blood pressure and hasn't been hospitalized once in the past decade. His first action every morning is reaching for the glass of water he prepared the night before. Here's the science. Most healthcare providers don't emphasize. After 7 to 8 hours of sleep, your blood volume decreases by up to 8%, making it thicker and forcing your heart to work harder. This morning, dehydration increases your risk of blood clots by 30%, and reduces cognitive function by up to 13%, both factors that dramatically increase nursing home admission rates. Even more shocking, a study from UC Berkeley found that chronic mild dehydration in seniors contributes to accelerated brain shrinkage that can mimic dementia. Many seniors diagnosed with early cognitive decline are actually suffering from chronic dehydration that could be reversed in as little as 2 weeks with proper hydration practices. The morning glass of water immediately improves circulation, supports brain function, and helps maintain the blood pressure stability that prevents falls. Adding a tiny pinch of salt, which contains trace minerals, helps your cells absorb the water more effectively, preventing the water from simply passing through without hydrating your tissues. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Now, let's move forward. The third habit of independent 90-year-olds is that they eat a protein-forward breakfast within 1 hour of waking up, not sugary cereals, pastries, or even fruit alone. This might be hard to hear, but the breakfast most seniors eat is actively accelerating their path to dependency. That bowl of instant oatmeal with banana? It converts to sugar in your bloodstream faster than a candy bar. The whole wheat toast with jam? It triggers an insulin response that promotes inflammation and muscle loss. Take Eleanor, 96, who still tends her own vegetable garden and hasn't lost an ounce of muscle mass in the past decade. Every morning, she eats 2 eggs with vegetables and a small piece of whole grain toast. This protein-rich breakfast provides her body with the amino acids needed to maintain muscle throughout the day. Compare her to her brother-in-law George, who at 83 requires full-time care. For years, his breakfast consisted of orange juice, cereal and toast, a meal that's primarily carbohydrates with almost no protein. The difference in their independence isn't just luck, it's biochemistry. Here's what the food industry doesn't want you to know. After age 70, your body becomes 40% less efficient at processing protein, meaning you need more of it to maintain the same muscle mass. This condition, called anabolic resistance, is rarely discussed, but is a primary driver of frailty in seniors. A groundbreaking study from the University of Texas found that seniors who consumed at least 25 to 30 grams of protein at breakfast had 34% more muscle synthesis throughout the day compared to those who ate the same amount of protein but distributed it mostly at dinner. Muscle loss is the #1 physical predictor of nursing home admission. Once you can't get up from a chair easily or recover from a stumble, your independence is at serious risk. The solution is surprisingly simple. Make sure your breakfast includes at least 25 grams of protein. This could be 3 eggs, 18 grams, plus a small serving of Greek yogurt, 7 grams. A protein smoothie with whey or plant protein, 25 grams. Cottage cheese, 24 grams per cup, with nuts. Leftover salmon or chicken from dinner. He hasn't needed sleeping pills in decades, and his doctors are amazed by his cognitive clarity. Meanwhile, his former colleague Harold, 78, spends his mornings in a dimly lit room watching television. Despite being 15 years younger, Harold now lives in an assisted living facility, takes medication for insomnia, depression, and has early signs of cognitive decline. Here's the scientific reality. Most medical professionals don't emphasize. Morning light exposure sets your circadian rhythm for the entire day by suppressing melatonin production and triggering cortisol at the appropriate time. Without this reset, your hormonal systems become dysregulated, leading to poor sleep, depressed mood, reduced cognitive function, and accelerated physical decline. A Japanese study followed seniors for 6 years and found that those with regular morning light exposure had a 77% lower rate of nursing home admission than those who primarily stayed indoors during morning hours. This one change alone has been shown to reduce fall risk by 47% over a 6-month period and can noticeably improve strength in as little as 3 weeks. Now to habit number 4, which costs absolutely nothing yet, is ignored by 82% of seniors. Deliberate exposure to natural morning light. Within 30 minutes of waking up, independent 90-year-olds spend at least 5 to 10 minutes in direct sunlight or bright, natural light. This might sound trivial compared to diet or exercise, but the impact is profound. Let me share something disturbing. Studies show that nursing home residents receive an average of just 10.5 minutes of bright light exposure per day, far below the minimum needed for basic biological functions. This isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. James, 93, makes it a point to have his morning coffee on his east-facing porch every day, regardless of the weather. On cold days, he sits by a bright window. This one change alone has been shown to reduce fall risk by 47% over a 6-month period and can noticeably improve strength in as little as 3 weeks. Now to habit number 4, which costs absolutely nothing yet, is ignored by 82% of seniors. Deliberate exposure to natural morning light. Within 30 minutes of waking up, independent 90-year-olds spend at least 5 to 10 minutes in direct sunlight or bright, natural light. This might sound trivial compared to diet or exercise, but the impact is profound. Let me share something disturbing. Studies show that nursing home residents receive an average of just 10.5 minutes of bright light exposure per day, far below the minimum needed for basic biological functions. This isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. James, 93, makes it a point to have his morning coffee on his east-facing porch every day, regardless of the weather. On cold days, he sits by a bright window. Even more importantly, morning light exposure is essential for vitamin D production, which supports immune function, bone density, and mood regulation. Vitamin D deficiency, which affects up to 80% of seniors, increases the risk of falls by 30% and bone fractures by 22%. The solution requires no prescription, no expense, and minimal effort. Tomorrow morning, take your coffee outside or sit by a bright window for just 10 minutes. If it's cloudy, sit by the brightest window in your home or use a bright full-spectrum light. Don't wear sunglasses during this time. Your retinas need direct exposure to the light to get the full benefit. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. Now, let's move forward to our 5th habit, which might surprise you the most. The 5th habit that separates independent 90-year-olds from those in nursing homes is going to surprise you. They practice balance while doing mundane morning tasks. This is the habit 91% of seniors completely overlook, yet it takes just 40 seconds to implement. Here's a shocking reality. Did you know that 78-year-old Barbara went from completely independent to permanent nursing home care after a single fall that broke her hip? It happened while she was simply turning to reach for a towel in her bathroom. One moment changed everything. Falls are the leading cause of nursing home admissions, accounting for 40% of all new residents. What's truly heartbreaking is that most of these falls could be prevented with one simple habit. Margaret, 90, performs a 30-second balance practice while brushing her teeth every morning. She stands on one foot for 15 seconds, then switches to the other foot. This habit, maintained for decades, has given her the stability of someone 20 years younger. What most people don't realize is that your balance system weakens 40% faster than your muscular system as you age. By age 70, most people have already lost significant balance capability, but because the decline happens gradually, they don't notice until they experience their first serious fall, and by then, it's often too late. Research from the University of Sydney found that seniors who practiced single leg, standing for just 60 seconds total per day, 30 seconds per leg, reduced their fall risk by 58% over a 3-month period. Even more remarkable, those who performed this simple exercise showed measurable improvements in their balance in just 9 days. Morning is the ideal time for balance training because your vestibular system inner ear is most receptive to training after rest. Establishing this habit alongside existing routines like brushing teeth ensures consistency. Morning balance training activates the proprioceptive system that keeps you steady all day. Here's how to do it right. While brushing your teeth or waiting for your coffee to brew, stand near a counter so you can touch it if needed, and lift one foot slightly off the ground. Start with just 5 seconds if that's all you can manage. Work your way up to 15 to 30 seconds on each side. The most common mistake? People try to stand on one foot without any nearby support. Always position yourself near a counter or solid chair you can grab if needed. Safety first. This habit costs nothing, requires no special equipment, and takes less than a minute of your day. Yet it could literally be the difference between living in your own home and ending up in institutional care. The 6th habit of independent 90-year-olds is something neurologists are just beginning to understand. Morning cognitive priming, deliberately challenging their brain before engaging with passive media like television or scrolling through phones. Let me share something disturbing. A recent study found that seniors who started their day by watching more than 30 minutes of TV news had a 27% higher rate of cognitive decline over a 5-year period compared to those who engaged in mentally stimulating activities first thing in the morning. Consider Richard, 95, who still manages his own finances and hasn't shown any signs of cognitive decline. Each morning, he spends 15 minutes doing a crossword puzzle, learning 3 new vocabulary words, or practicing a language learning app before turning on any news or entertainment. His former neighbor Barbara, 82, started each day watching morning news shows. Despite being 13 years younger, Barbara now lives in a memory care unit, unable to manage basic daily tasks. What most people don't know is that your brain is in a highly receptive state during the first hour after waking. The activities you engage in during this time have a disproportionate impact on your neural patterns for the entire day. It's like setting the tone for how your brain will function. Neurologists at UCLA found that seniors who engaged in 15 minutes of novel cognitive challenges within an hour of waking showed significantly better executive function throughout the day compared to those who didn't. Over time, this difference compounds, either building cognitive reserve or accelerating decline. Independent 90-year-olds do the opposite of most seniors. They actively challenge their thinking first thing in the morning. This cognitive priming activates neural pathways that might otherwise go dormant, builds cognitive reserve. The brain's ability to compensate for age-related changes establishes a pattern of mental engagement that continues throughout the day, creates new neural connections that maintain memory and executive function. The solution doesn't require expensive brain training programs. Simple activities like doing mental math, calculate tips or multiply two-digit numbers in your head, learning 3 new vocabulary words over coffee, writing a short journal entry about your plans for the day, reading something that challenges you, not just reinforces what you already know, having a thoughtful conversation about current events, spending 5 minutes on a language learning app. What matters most is that the activity requires effort and active engagement, not passive consumption. And it must come before turning on the television, scrolling through social media, or other passive activities that put your brain in a receptive rather than active state. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. Now, let's move forward to our 7th and perhaps most powerful habit. The 7th habit of independent 90-year-olds is something researchers call the most powerful predictor of longevity. They prioritize meaningful social connection in the morning. This final habit might be the most important of all. Studies show that social isolation increases the risk of premature death by a staggering 29%, making it more dangerous than obesity, smoking 15 cigarettes a day, or physical inactivity. Helen, 97, starts each day by calling one friend or family member for a brief check-in. On days when she can't reach anyone, she exchanges a few words with a neighbor or even the mail carrier. She hasn't spent a single day in a nursing home despite living alone for over 30 years. Meanwhile, her former colleague Doris, 88, gradually lost touch with friends after retirement. Despite being in relatively good physical health, her cognitive decline accelerated rapidly, and she now requires 24-hour care, unable to recognize family members. What neurologists now understand is that social interaction in the morning triggers the release of neuropeptides that protect brain cells from degradation. A Harvard study found that seniors who had daily meaningful social interactions showed 70% less cognitive decline over a 12-year period compared to socially isolated individuals. Even more remarkable, research from the University of California found that the timing of social interaction matters significantly. Morning social connection had nearly twice the protective effect of evening socialization. This is because morning social engagement sets off a cascade of beneficial neurochemicals that last throughout the day. This habit doesn't require a large social circle. Quality matters more than quantity. Even 1 or 2 meaningful connections can make the difference between thriving independently or declining rapidly. The solution is simple. Make a point to speak with someone, in person, by phone, or even video call, before noon each day. This conversation should be meaningful, not just a transaction or superficial chat. Ask questions, share something about your day, or discuss a topic you find interesting. If in-person connection isn't possible every day, technology makes it easier than ever to maintain these vital links. A 5-minute video call with a grandchild, a quick phone conversation with a friend, or even participating in an online community can provide the necessary social engagement to keep your brain and body functioning optimally. I want to share with you one of the most remarkable transformations I've witnessed, a story that proves it's never too late to take control of your health and independence. Meet Edward, who at 79 years old was in serious trouble. After a minor fall, he spent 2 weeks in the hospital recovering from a hip fracture. His doctors were blunt. His muscles had weakened significantly, his balance was poor, and his cognitive testing showed early signs of decline. They strongly recommended he move into an assisted living facility, warning that living alone was no longer safe for him. Edward's children had already started touring nursing homes, believing this was the inevitable next chapter for their father. After all, he was already taking 8 different medications, needed help getting dressed most mornings, and had fallen 3 times in the past year. The writing seemed to be on the wall. But Edward's neighbor Dorothy, a vibrant 88-year-old who still drove herself to volunteer work 3 times a week, gave him a piece of advice that would change everything. She told Edward about these 7 morning habits she'd been practicing for decades, the same habits I've shared with you today. Though skeptical, Edward was desperate. The thought of leaving his home of 43 years was devastating. So, with Dorothy's encouragement, he decided to give these morning habits a try before making any permanent decisions. His children were worried this was just delaying the inevitable. His doctor was doubtful these simple changes would make much difference. But Edward was determined to try. He started with just 3 of the habits: the morning mobility ritual, protein-rich breakfast, and strategic hydration. Even though small changes were challenging at first, he'd get discouraged when he couldn't balance for more than a few seconds or when his joints ached during the mobility exercises. But within just 16 days, a little over 2 weeks, his morning trips to the bathroom became steadier. He noticed he wasn't as winded climbing his porch steps. His thinking seemed clearer, especially in the mornings. Encouraged by these small improvements, Edward gradually added the other habits. He began sitting on his porch each morning for 15 minutes, challenging his brain with word puzzles before turning on the TV, and calling at least one person daily. The transformation that happened over the next 90 days stunned everyone, especially his doctors. His follow-up tests showed dramatic improvement. His balance tests improved by 43%. His grip strength increased by 28%. His cognitive assessment scores rose by 17%. He was able to reduce his medications from 8 to just 3. Most importantly, he hadn't fallen once. 6 months later, Edward's doctor officially changed his recommendation. Not only did Edward no longer need assisted living, but his physical health markers were better than they'd been in a decade. His blood pressure normalized, his sleep improved, and he reported feeling happier and more purposeful than he had in years. Today, at 82, Edward lives completely independently. He tends his garden daily, hosts a weekly card game for friends, and even mentors other seniors in his community on how to maintain their independence. He often says, "I was 16 days away from giving up my home and my freedom when I learned these habits. Those 16 days changed everything." The most remarkable part of Edward's story isn't that it's unusual, it's that it could be replicated by thousands of seniors who are currently on the path to losing their independence. These 7 habits aren't magic or revolutionary. They're based on solid science and common sense. The only revolutionary part is actually doing them consistently. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment "independence" below to let me know you're here. Your experiences might inspire others in our community. We've covered 7 powerful morning habits that can dramatically increase your chances of maintaining independence well into your 90s. 1. The morning mobility ritual, just 3 minutes to lubricate your joints before getting out of bed. 2. Strategic hydration, 12 to 16 ounces of water with a pinch of salt within 10 minutes of waking. 3. A protein-forward breakfast, at least 25 grams of protein within an hour of waking up. 4. Purposeful exposure to natural light, 5 to 10 minutes of bright light to reset your circadian rhythm. 5. Balance training during mundane tasks, 30 to 60 seconds of one-legged standing while brushing teeth. 6. Cognitive priming, 15 minutes of mental challenge before passive activities. 7. Morning social connection, a meaningful interaction before noon each day. The question now is, what will you do with this information? Because knowing these habits isn't enough, implementing them is what makes the difference. Many of you watching might think, "This sounds good, but I'll start tomorrow." Let me share one last statistic that might change your mind. Research shows that for every month you delay implementing these habits after age 70, it takes approximately 3 months to achieve the same results. The biological window for improvement doesn't close completely, but it does narrow with each passing month. The cost of waiting is steep. Right now, somewhere in America, seniors will enter nursing homes today who could have avoided it if they had started these habits a year ago. Don't let yourself become one of those statistics. Start with just one habit tomorrow morning. Maybe it's the 3-minute mobility ritual or the glass of water with a pinch of salt. Once that becomes automatic, add another. Within 30 days, you could be implementing all 7 habits in less than 30 minutes each morning. Those 30 minutes could quite literally be the difference between spending your final years in your own home, surrounded by your own things, living life on your terms, or spending them in an institutional setting where your choices are limited and your independence is gone? I'd love to hear from you. Which of these habits will you start tomorrow? Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. If you already practice some of these habits, share your experience. Your wisdom might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might benefit. Your support helps us continue creating content that empowers seniors to live their best lives. Remember, independence isn't just about living longer, it's about living better, with dignity, purpose, and joy. You deserve nothing less. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.